They say that as the years pile on, your priorities shift. You start craving peace more than thrills. Not just the peace of a quiet forest or the gentle ripple of water at dawn, but the deeper kind, the peace of knowing exactly who you are and where you truly belong. After decades of blaring car horns, suffocating deadlines, and too many late nights kept alive by coffee, I finally found that peace in the place that had always been waiting for me, Grandpa Walt's cabin on the edge of Crystal Lake. The morning sun had just begun its dance through the towering pines, scattering soft golden light across the worn wooden porch. My coffee was warm in my hand, and for the first time in years, I felt completely grounded. That's when the pounding started, sharp, heavy, and urgent. 3 booming knocks that shattered the tranquility. Then came the voice, official and commanding. "Sheriff's Department, open up immediately." A cold unease slithered up my spine, and it had nothing to do with the crisp mountain air. I didn't need a crystal ball to guess who had called in the cavalry, and sure enough, when I opened the door, there they were. 2 deputies, boots planted firmly on the porch, expressions neutral but wary, and right behind them, her arms folded, lips curled into a smug little smirk, stood Denise Hartwell, president of the Willowbrook Estates HOA. She wore a blood-red power suit that screamed confrontation, her manicured nails gleaming like daggers. She jabbed one of those nails at me as though issuing a verdict from a judge's bench. "There he is, officers," she announced with syrupy false concern. "The illegal squatter who's been trespassing on HOA property for months. I demand you remove him immediately." The taller deputy, whose badge read Thompson, shifted uncomfortably as his eyes bounced between her and me. "Sir, we've received a report that you're unlawfully occupying this property. We're going to need to see identification and proof of ownership." I calmly set down my mug and gave him a polite nod. This moment had been coming ever since Denise declared her little war, and I'd been more than ready. "Of course, Deputy. Thompson. Would you like to step inside while I grab the paperwork? Fresh pot of coffee on if you'd like a cup." Before Thompson could answer, Denise cut in like a buzzsaw. "Absolutely not. Don't let him stall. He's probably destroying evidence as we speak." Thompson raised his hand to silence her sharp tongue. "We'll wait right here, sir. Please bring out the documents." I disappeared inside, returning moments later with a leather folder that carried more weight than Denise could ever imagine. Inside were deeds and records stretching back 7 decades. I handed them over, watching Thompson's face closely as he flipped through them. Confusion gave way to realization, then disbelief. His partner, Deputy Martinez, leaned in for a look, and her raised brows said it all. "Ma'am," Thompson said finally, turning to Denise. "According to these records, this property has been in Mr. Garrett's family since 1952. That's long before Willowbrook Estates was even developed." For the first time, Denise's confidence faltered, though only for a breath. Then her chin snapped upward. "Those are forgeries. I have paperwork that proves this land belongs to the HOA, and just like that, things got interesting. My name is Marcus Garrett. 6 months ago, I inherited this cabin from my grandfather. Walter Garrett, Grandpa Walt to everyone who ever cast a line into Crystal Lake or trekked through these woods. He'd been a park ranger here for 40 years, a man of quiet strength and unwavering values. After World War II, he used his veterans' benefits to buy this slice of heaven, a sturdy 2-bedroom cabin, 3 acres of wild woodland, and 200 feet of untouched lakefront. As a kid, I spent every summer here. Days were filled with fishing off the dock, nights with roasting marshmallows by the fire, and bedtime with Grandpa Walt's stories of wildfires, run-ins with bears, and lost hikers who had wandered too far. When he passed away, I left behind the city and my systems analyst job to claim the only home that had ever truly felt like mine. Sure, the cabin needed work, but it had soul, The kind of soul you'll never find in drywall or granite countertops. What I hadn't counted on was Denise Hartwell and the Willowbrook Estates HOA, their neighborhood of sprawling McMansions, and manicured lawns had sprouted just a mile down the road 5 years earlier. A place where residents lived and breathed by the book, convinced that rules meant order and order meant value. That was fine, until they decided their rules extended to places they didn't own. The first shot fired in Denise's war came 2 weeks after I'd moved in. I was repairing the old dock when a woman in sleek designer workout gear strutted down my private path like she was inspecting a crime scene. "Excuse me?" she called out, her tone sharp, like she was summoning a waiter. "You can't just build structures on HOA property without approval." I wiped my hands on my jeans and gave her my friendliest smile. "This is private property, not part of any HOA." She laughed, sharp and mocking, the kind of laugh that cut through the morning air. "Oh, you must be new here. I'm Denise Hartwell, president of the Willowbrook Estates HOA, and according to our updated boundary agreements, this entire stretch of lakefront falls under our jurisdiction. You'll need to file an application for any modifications, and of course start paying dues, only $300 a month. Quite reasonable." The smile froze on my face. "Ma'am, this land has been in my family since 1952. It's not part of your HOA, and it never has been." Her oversized sunglasses slid down the bridge of her nose, revealing eyes narrowed to slits. "That's not what our records show. I suggest you review the new county assessments." She whipped out her phone like a weapon. "In the meantime, I'm documenting this unauthorized construction. You'll be hearing from our legal team." And just like that, she spun on her heels and marched away. Over the next 3 months, the barrage began. Letters and fines came like clockwork. My dock was the wrong color. Apparently, it should be Willowbrook wheat instead of weathered gray. Grandpa's old fishing boat was labeled an eyesore. The trail to the lake? Not covered in HOA approved. Gravel. Each violation carried a fine, starting at $50 and swelling to $500. I answered each one politely, attaching copies of my deed. But the replies grew more hostile. Then came the big one, a letter demanding over $8,000 in back dues and fines. Pay up within 30 days, it threatened, or the HOA would place a lien on the property. That's when I knew something wasn't right. I headed to the county records office, combing through every deed, plat map, and formation document I could find. Willowbrook Estates was established just 5 years ago. My property wasn't anywhere near their jurisdiction, but buried in the files I found something disturbing. 6 months ago, around the time of Grandpa's death, a boundary adjustment agreement had been filed. It claimed my grandfather had signed off annexing my property into the HOA. The problem? The so-called signature was dated just 2 weeks before Grandpa passed, when he was in hospice, barely able to lift a pen. I hired a property attorney, Janet Morrison. One glance at the documents and she said flat as day, "This is fraudulent." From there, we began building a case. But Denise didn't let up. She escalated her campaign, filing complaints with the county, reporting fake environmental violations, even calling Adult Protective Services with claims of unsafe living conditions. Every inspector who came out left scratching their head. One even told me, "Your grandfather would be proud. This place is immaculate." Still, it wore me down. And that's what brought us to that morning when Denise tried to sick the sheriff's department on me. As Deputy Thompson flipped through my folder of records, his expression grew heavier. Finally, he shut it with a snap. "This deed is ironclad. Your family has owned this land since 1952. There's no record tying it to any HOA. Denise shoved her own folder into his hands. "Look at these documents. We have a signed annexation agreement." Thompson skimmed through them, then frowned. "Ma'am, this signature is dated just 2 weeks before Mr. Garrett's death. Medical records show he was incapacitated at the time." Denise's face blanched. It was for the good of the community. Deputy Martinez stepped forward, her voice sharp. Ma'am, we'll need you to come to the station to answer. Some questions about these documents. Denise's mask cracked. This is ridiculous. I'm the HOA president. I have authority. Thompson's tone was calm, but firm as steel. You have no authority over private property, and filing false documents, that's a felony. I gladly handed over every letter, every complaint, every fraudulent paper she'd sent. That evidence kicked off a full investigation. Detective Sarah Chen uncovered the whole scheme. Denise had been plotting to annex properties owned by elderly residents, mine included, to seize control of the lakefront. She wanted to rebrand Willowbrook Estates as an exclusive lakeside luxury community. Her arrogance was her undoing. She'd kept meticulous notes on her computer, records of Grandpa's declining health, drafts of forged signatures, even emails with developers planning a private marina. The charges piled up: forgery, fraud, attempted grand theft, and more. The fallout was swift. Denise was arrested, stripped from the HOA board, sued by the developers she'd courted, and hit with civil suits from other elderly homeowners she had targeted. Her marriage collapsed. Her mansion went up for sale. In court, she eventually pled guilty to felony fraud and forgery. The judge sentenced her to 5 years in prison, 3 years probation, and over $200,000 in restitution. As they led her away, shackled and stunned, I felt a quiet satisfaction. Not joy, not triumph, just a steady, sobering justice. I had come to Crystal Lake seeking peace. What I found was a battle to defend it. But some things, like family legacies and the truth, are always worth fighting for. If you believe justice should always catch up with those who think they're untouchable, don't forget to give this video a like. And if you enjoy stories of resilience, legal battles, and endings that prove the good fight is worth it, hit that subscribe button. There are plenty more where this came from.